goes on, and he's here to do a presentation. And the rest of you guys are going to write with his feet and see how it is for him.
Thank you.
That was good.
Oh, well, you're lucky because Aiden asked me if I would stick around and talk with his class to tell you guys a little bit more about me. And what I want to do is show you some pictures of me growing up as a little boy without arms. It's like you guys are today at your age. And then how I grew up and how I went to school. And then later on I'll show you some things that I can do with my feet. And we'll see if you're any good using your feet. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, first of all, I want to start off my presentation by introducing you to a friend of mine. Oh, it's okay to be different. We learned that earlier, so we'll skip over that. Basically, as I said earlier, I may look different, and I may act different, but...
It's okay to be different.
Thank you. So I may look different, act different, but...
It's okay to be different.
You guys sound like you're asleep.
It's okay to be different.
Thank you.
No problem.
You're getting the idea. So again, let me introduce you to a friend of mine.
SpongeBob.
SpongeBob SquarePants. Sponge lives with all of his pals where?
Under the bottom.
Under the sea, right. And I'll bet you don't realize that each and every one of his friends is different. Okay? We start with Patrick, my hero. I love Patrick. Patrick is a starfish, or a sea star. And a sea star, or starfish, has 5 legs. But it doesn't have any arms. Did you know that?
Yeah.
It does not have arms, it only has legs. So Patrick has to use 2 of his legs for his arms, like I use my legs for my arms, just like Patrick does. He also uses one of his legs for his head, so that's kind of funky, but that's the magic of cartoons. But he uses his arms different. And I got it backwards. He uses 2 of his arms for his legs. Excuse me, I had that backwards. So again, 5 arms, but he has to use 2 of his arms for his legs. Sorry, I moved that one. How about this one?
Squidward.
Squidward is a squid or an octopus that has how many legs?
4. 6.
Octo. 8 legs,
He
right.
has 6 though.
Yeah, he only has 6. Well, again, that's cartoons for you. They always change things.
But
But here you have Squilliam, his cousin, using 2 of his legs. Remember, he only has legs as his arms. And again, this is where I meant to do this. So, he's like me, that he uses his legs for his arms. Mr. Crab! How many legs does a real live crab have?
8. 4.
10. Some of them are really tiny little ones, but their main 2 legs are where they have their claws. Okay? So, here's Mr. Crab with only 4 legs, but he uses 2 of his legs as his arms because he needs arms to mark up the price of
Krabby
Patties. There you go. And then
Sandy.
Sandy is a squirrel living in the bottom of the ocean. How in the world does she breathe? With that glass tube, she has air, so she has to breathe differently than everybody else. So here's SpongeBob and all of his friends, and each one looks different and acts different, but
It's okay to be different.
it's okay to be different. I messed that one up. I jumped the shot slide too soon. Alright, anyway, this is me on the day that I was born. It's my daddy holding me. What you can't see is under that blanket is a little baby that doesn't have any arms or hands. Well, very sadly, shortly after I was born, my daddy passed away. He had cancer and he died. So my mom was left to raise me and my brother and my sister. Well, this is me a little bit later, and as you can see, happy little baby. Not having any arms. Do I look happy?
Yes.
Am I sad that I don't have hands?
No.
Do I have a really big diaper?
Yes.
You think that's why I'm smiling?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is me with my older brother and my older sister, and as you can see, they both have arms and legs, just like everybody else. I'm the only member of the family that was different. This is what I look like. Just got a small little arm on the side, pretty much nothing on the other side. But do I look unhappy?
No.
Am I smiling?
Yes.
Do I have another really big diaper on?
Yes.
Do we see a pattern forming here? I still don't. No, I don't wear diapers anymore. Well, when I was a little boy, if someone was born different, they said, well, I'm going to take questions later, Aiden, okay? When I was born, back in those days, if you were different, you had to look different. You had to look like everybody else. You had to act like everybody else. So they gave me an artificial arm. And it's made out of wood and plastic, and you don't have to have a pointer by any chance, would you?
Okay. Well, you know, I don't know, not a traditional pointer.
Just
A yardstick?
yeah, a yardstick would be perfect, yeah.
Right there.
Where is
there.
Did you see it?
Okay.
You have your socks.
Or the broom.
Pardon?
You have your socks because the assembly has some socks.
Yeah, they're in my bag over here somewhere.
Um,
Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot the pointer.
Let's see. That's okay.
And a little bit longer than that if possible. Sorry,
Well, I do
guys.
have something. You know what? Sarah Lynn, run
Okay,
to
never mind. Don't worry
Mrs.
about it. Don't worry about it.
No,
Don't worry
just
about
run to
it.
Miss Green and see if
Guys,
she's
don't,
got
yeah,
it.
Miss Scott, don't worry about it. We'll
Okay,
just
we
go.
won't.
Let me see that one you just had there, Adam.
Josiah.
Okay, don't worry about it. Okay. We'll improvise. I apologize. So again, this is the artificial arm. They had this great big thing that went over my shoulder, and then this is the arm, here's the elbow, and here's the forearm. And instead of a hand, I had a hook that could open and close, and open and close. As you can see here, I used my hook to hold a paintbrush and paint one of my many masterpieces that I painted when I was a little boy. They're masterpieces.
Yay.
They're expensive. They're in the trash. No. So anyway, but the idea was that I needed to look like everybody else and act like everybody else. Well, that was going on, and then and as I told you guys outside, well, excuse me, I wore that hook to school all day. So when I got home, it was pretty heavy. So I told my mom, do I have to wear this all the time? So when I got home from school, I didn't have to wear my hook anymore. But I still wanted to do stuff when I got home. So as you can see, I learned to start doing things with my feet. So I was playing the harmonica, and I was coloring. Watch out where the but, you know, so I was able to do all those things with my feet, just like everybody else did with their hands. And when I went to school, there I wore my artificial arm, and I did everything up on the desk, like everybody else. I learned how to write and do everything. And this is me with my very first girlfriend ever. The problem was she didn't know it. He got it. He got it. Guess it's too old for this. Anyway, but when I was in school, I used my artificial arm. Well, then along came my problems with my back. Everybody remembers that's the spine, right? The blue line there and going up and down. Well, on the one side, you see what a healthy spine looks like, which is
Straight.
growing nice and straight, up and down. But mine started to curve. And as I got older, it curved more and more and more. And eventually, I would have bent myself in half. And when you have internal organs like your heart and your lungs, you got to have more room in there than my body was allowing me. So, oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Wow, I can really got it. Ooh, I can do some kung fu stuff. So anyway, mine started curving, and the older I got, and they first noticed this when I was about 3 years old, and they tried everything to try to get it to stop. They had me in traction, this thing under my head and hanging on the top of the door. My feet weren't on the ground. I was dangling by my head. They're trying to straighten me out. I had a body cast on. This thing just strapped around me, and I had to wear that all day. So they're doing everything they could as I was growing to stop it from bending, but it just wouldn't stop. So finally, we had no choice. Because as you can see, this was me when I was 3 years old. You can see how much it bends. Well, this is when I was 6 years old, and you can see how much it bends. Eventually, right over there, would not exist anymore. So we had to do something very drastic, and I had to have surgery. So as you can see, that's what my back looks like when I was about 5 or 6 years old. So what they did was they put me in the hospital, and they put me in a body cast. This is a cast from my neck all the way down to my waist. And I wore that cast for 30 days. Okay? And after 30 days, they said, okay, well, we're going to have to do surgery. So they went in, and they put these 2 metal rods into my back. And they hooked them onto my ribs, so my spine could not bend any further. It was physically impossible. When I got out of the hospital, I wore another body cast, and from my neck all the way down to my waist, I got to wear that one for 1 year. And then after that, I wore a body brace from my shoulder all the way down to my waist, and I had to wear that for 6 more years.
Oh, God.
So I was just covered in stuff. But, you know, so here I am, I'm going through all this stuff, but you know what? I was 7 years old. I wanted to be a little boy, just like everybody else. So now when I went to school, however, I couldn't wear my artificial arm anymore because it wouldn't fit over the cast. So luckily, I had learned to do everything with my feet. So I was able to just go into school, and here you can see me using my feet like everybody else used their hands. And this is a desk that my grandfather made just for me. It was just like everybody else's desk. Had a place for books, had a place for pencils, a place to stash my lunch. So I had a desk just like everybody else, but it was a little bit different. And
It's okay to be different.
it's okay to be different. There you go, you're catching on. All right, well, when I was a little boy, again, I wanted to be a little boy. So I was in the Cub Scouts. See? I loved playing baseball. I told you outside how at recess I'd end up being the umpire, as opposed to, you know, being able to go out and hit, or I'd run the bases. So we always found a way for me to be able to play, to be involved. But I still loved baseball. When I was 10 years old, there was nothing else in the world for me except baseball. So anyway, this is me all through elementary school, from kindergarten all the way up through 7th grade. Do I look unhappy?
No.
Am I smiling?
Yes.
Am I wearing a big diaper?
No, we can't
Let's
see.
hope not. Let's hope not. So anyway, as you can see, and most of them you'll see I'm wearing my artificial arm, because once I got out of my cast and I was in the brace, well, they figured out a way to hook the artificial arm onto the brace. This is me at 8th grade graduation. We didn't have middle school. We went straight from 8th grade to high school. Now, what do you guys think? I've shown you this picture for 2 reasons. Number one, look at all that hair I used to have. I really had hair. But number 2, I just love the jacket. What do you guys think of the jacket?
Nice.
Ladies, what do you think of the jacket?
It's nice.
Miss McNulty, what do you think of that jacket?
Love it.
If your husband wore that, would you be pleased?
Yes, I would.
Miss Scott?
Oh, I don't know.
Yes.
It's a classic.
It's a classic. Thank you.
It is
I
a
like
classic.
it.